It's the shocking sleep disorder that 70% of us will experience at some point. Parasomnia is the medical term for a range of sleep issues that cause you to have strange episodes whilst you sleep.
Yeah, but while some parasomnias can be relatively harmless, like sleepwalking, for example, others can be so severe that the sleeper is unknowingly putting their life at risk every time they go to sleep.
Our next guest is someone who knows firsthand just how terrifying this can be. We're joined now by Sarah Taylor alongside sleep scientist Dr. Sophie Bostock. Good morning, ladies.
Morning,
Good morning. Now, we were chatting over the break, and some of the things, Sarah, where you wake up and you'll find a knife, or you'll have been chopping, or you'll... I mean, it's really scary stuff.
It's absolutely terrifying. Obviously, I can see the funny side to it, but as living in it and not having that control over your own body, not knowing what you've done in the night, having no clue, it's really unsettling. It's almost feeling like you've been possessed or something. And I'll wake up in the morning, as you say, you know, finding a sharp knife on the chopping board, finding mud on my shoes is always terrifying as well.
So it means you've been out of the house.
Yeah.
When did it all start?
Yeah.
So when I was at university in my second year, we kept waking up to finding cupboard doors open and doors open through the entire house and in the bedrooms as well. And, you know, we're quite sciencey, but we joke, you know, as it goes, why is this happening? And it must have been a good 2 months before I woke up mid-walk and I was in the kitchen holding the cupboard door open, some bread in front of me, and it was just like this, you know, huge light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, it's me, and oh, what else have I done if I'm a sleepwalker? It was really quite a shocking moment. Of course, all my housemates were immediately like, oh, please don't walk in my room at night, you know. But yeah, it was quite a shocking way to find out.
But also that whole thing where you describe having muddy shoes or you've been out and about. I mean, there is a massive element of danger to this too, that you basically have no control over.
Completely. You know, I've woken up literally with my keys in the door, with my shoes on, and I don't know if I'm going out or coming in. I had one time, even when I'm not entirely asleep, so I woke up mid-walk once, and it's like full amnesia if you wake up mid-sleepwalking.
So you don't remember any of it?
Where I am, who I am, anything. So I just think I'm in this strange house. There's this strange man in my bed who was my boyfriend, and I honestly thought I'd been kidnapped. I didn't have a clue what was going on or where I was, so I army crawled out of there, you know, fearing for my safety, not wearing enough clothing, unfortunately, and I was out on the road, you know, all the lorries and trucks going by, and then it was like just a wave came over me of, oh no, this is where I live, that's my boyfriend, and luckily I caught the door just before I got locked out. But it's so strange to go from utter panic and amnesia to suddenly it all just came flooding back.
Fitting into place. But you've actually, at times, you've tried to lock yourself into the bedroom, haven't you? But you've somehow managed to evade all of those security measures.
Yeah. It's amazing how clever we can be when completely unconscious. So we put a lock very high up on the door because I'm quite short, thinking I can't reach it, but, you know, I must be moving furniture. We'll find sort of there's a bench in the room that has moved. So I'm obviously doing quite complex tasks to escape, and we've tried things to monitor it, like putting a pedometer on my ankle, but I'll just take it off. You know, there's nothing that can stop me.
Oh, my goodness, you're ingenious. Even when you're asleep, you're ingenious. But there's also another element to it as well. You've got a little girl who's 5.
Yeah, and it's so scary.
So what if you went in and you picked up the baby, or...?
Completely. I mean, I think the first 2 months, everyone's so sleep-deprived, you hardly sleep anyway.
Exactly, it's like sleepwalking through life.
So once I was a few months in and getting proper sleep and the walking was coming back, I was terrified. You know, was I going to try and feed her? Was I going to carry her? And then my body flicked to a different task. So it was a really, really terrifying time. My husband used to reassure me every night, you know, you've got strong motherly instincts, you won't do anything to hurt her. But obviously, the more you worry about it, I think the more likely it seems to kind of feed in. The things I worry about seem to feed through into my sleepwalking sometimes.
And how about your husband? How does he cope? Because didn't you create a fort with all the...
Yeah.
I
literally... So I do very odd things. Apparently, I went dancing with Batman one night.
Wow.
How lovely.
Lucky me, eh? And stole the pillows from literally under his head and around the room, refused to give them back and built a pillow fort that apparently I crouched in for a good hour and a half and just refused to let him have that.
And is he trying to wake you up at that stage, or is he...
No, he knows not to wake me because it's that amnesia, it's that panic. It's a very scary thing. But what he'll sometimes do is just kind of tap the side of the bed, and that sometimes kind of signals me to walk back into bed. I'll still be sat wide open, you know, like I'm still through the motions, but at least I'll be contained. But he's actually got reduced hearing, so I usually don't wake him up. So he tends
You're quite a team, aren't you?
I know, right? Perfect match, eh?
Wow.
But yeah, no, it's quite scary. And I'll do the morning routine a lot, you know, sort of hair, teeth, feeding the pets.
While you're asleep?
Yeah, my poor dentist, she hates the gum recession from the overbrushing, but I can't do anything about that. We've tried locking them away, but I just get the toothbrush out.
Sophie, it's it's fascinating hearing Sarah talk about it, and we're laughing.
It is, it's funny, but
also
scary.
the sort of the absurdity of it, but it's also very worrying as well. How common is it?
For adults to sleepwalk, it's really quite unusual. I think to go through childhood and not have any episodes of a parasomnia, the most common being probably nightmares, but sleepwalking is probably the most common non-REM parasomnia. So we sleep in different stages. We start in a stage 1 light sleep, and then we come to stage 2, which is a bit deeper, and then there's stage 3, which is a very deep sleep where it's very hard to wake someone up. And then in a natural course of a night, you'll come back through something called REM, rapid eye movement sleep, which is often associated with dreaming. And in between sleep cycles, you'll often have a short period of wakefulness. Now, what happens in a parasomnia like Sarah's is that part of the brain is still in deep sleep. It's hanging on to deep sleep for dear life, but actually part of the brain is partially awake. So you've got, if you were to put a memory trace on Sarah's skull, you would actually see that she's in deep sleep, but just some visual awareness creeps in, but she doesn't have consciousness. She's not doing purposeful movements. She's not aware what's going on, and she won't probably have very much memory of what's going on. So it's interesting your point about when you were woken up during deep sleep, you know, you got quite afraid, and there's a bit of a myth around that we shouldn't wake up a sleepwalker. And the reason for that is actually for the safety of the person that wakes you up, because very often sleepwalkers can become quite aggressive. As you said, you thought you'd been kidnapped. And so if you can softly sort of propel them back to bed, that's probably the best thing, because usually they will fall back to sleep again afterwards.
And Dr. Sophie, is there anything that you can do, or is there anything that triggers it, or is there any things that Sarah should steer clear of?
Well, certainly Sarah's the expert. What we would say generally is that there's something which is disrupting the quality of your sleep. Now, for your brain to want to hang on to that deep sleep, it's probably been sleep deprived in some way. Now, sometimes that's just an irregular sleep pattern. Very often it's down to some kind of stress.
Something you're worrying about?
Something that's keeping you a little bit on edge. Sometimes it's alcohol, often medication, even things like coughs and cold medication that might contain a bit of caffeine can push you kind of over the edge. And I know you've had experiences where stress has definitely been a trigger.
Yeah, hugely. When I had my exams at uni, I would massively sleepwalk every night for a good sort of 2.5 months solid every night. It's exhausting. I wake up like I've been at the gym all night long. I'm often covered in bruises from knocking into things in my sleep. It drains so much out of you at a time where obviously there's a lot going on. Or like my wedding, you know, I had my legs were covered in bruises on my wedding day because I'd sleptwalked like mad the 2 weeks leading up to it.
Oh, my goodness.
It was funny because we showed a little bit of footage as well, Sophie, of someone doing some press-ups. So someone's actually exercising while they're fast asleep. And I'm thinking, brilliant, you get your training done in the middle of the night.
People clean sometimes in their sleep, but also eating. And I think this is something you've experienced, it's sleep eating.
Unfortunately, I eat all the unhealthy things. I'm very envious of all these people who eat healthy and do exercise. No, it's always the unhealthy things. We'll find even the block of cheese in the fridge has been gnawed on and little tooth marks. Or terribly, one day I had an awful day at work, so I brought a load of donuts for everyone at work the next day, and I sent my husband a very angry message saying, "You've taken the donuts for my colleagues," but he just replied saying, "Did you feel hungry at all when you woke up?" And I'd eaten 12 donuts and just eaten them all over the sink. I know.
Can you cure it? I mean, I don't know whether it's something you can cure, or can you appease the sleepwalking?
Usually by concentrating on sleep hygiene. So you are protecting enough time for sleep, you're having really regular sleep patterns, sometimes some cognitive behavioural therapy to perhaps tackle the source of anxiety, depression, stress. Not always, and I know that Sarah's sort of been through the mill over the years with things that she's tried. Certainly with sleep eating, we tend to find that if you have regular eating patterns throughout the day, no strict dieting, that tends to be a trigger for the sleep eating. So for most people, they can bring it under control. It's relatively unusual that it will be as severe as this, fortunately.
OK. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and thank you for being so open about it, because it is that thing where it's funny to a point and then it's terrifying.
Really concerning.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out, and we'll see you in the morning.